Hey friends, welcome back to Mustard Seed Homesteading. My name is Megan, and if you're new here, I'm so glad you stopped by because this is my weekly backyard garden tour and harvest where I share all the things that are going on in the garden while doing some harvesting. All right, before we get started, it is on and off raining, so I'm not sure how much I'm going to be able to get into this garden tour. I'm going to try my hardest to share all the things that I've been doing and giving you updates on some of the tomatoes and all of the raised beds because everything is growing so beautifully. But I do want to let you know that I recently posted 2 more videos on all of the plum tomato varieties that I'm growing, as well as my slicer tomatoes that I'm growing in the garden. And I also a couple weeks ago shared all of the pepper varieties that are growing in my garden as well. And the reason I decided to do that is now that I'm giving weekly green stalk garden tour and harvest, as well as backyard garden tour and harvest videos, I thought it'd be a really good idea to share all the varieties of peppers and tomatoes that are growing in my garden. All right, we need to get started because there's so much I want to show you, and it is evening time. The rain is not helping, and we do have a little bit to harvest, not a ton this week, but we do have a broccoli, and I want to say a pepper, and I can't think of anything else. Oh, I think maybe some kale, and let's just get going. I'll show you. All right, there's just a lot going on here, but you know what? I actually wanted to show you something real quick because I have this back here, and I have a tarp over my wagon because it's been raining on and off. But as I come back here and I have to either prune or label something or still plant some things, I like to take my wagon full of all the things that I need so that I'm not walking back to the garage and getting it, because I sometimes am out here for a little bit of time and I don't want to waste any time. So I just thought I'd show this to you because it's so nice to be organized and just have everything together. So I just took one of these wagons that I had already, filled it with all the things. Look, I even clipped my gloves on the side because I like to reuse those gloves and not throw them away. But I just like to have everything here so that I'm ready to go. And I have all my clips over here too, plus my towels, because on days like this when it's raining, I can cover or dry things that I need to. Now, I did just give my green stalk garden tour and harvest video, and I've decided to do separate videos because there is so much going on with the green stalks, and then there's also a lot going on with just my raised beds and my bags. We are going to start on this end because typically the sun sets on the other end of the garden, so this gets darker sooner. I am excited to share that I finally got all the basil planted in these bags with all of my cherry tomatoes, and so far, friends, I think having these larger bags was what I needed to do because I had 5-gallon grow bags last year, and I found that these got dried out very quickly and I couldn't keep up with watering. So the larger bag so far is working, but look at the tomatoes. Hopefully I can focus in. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, look at those are the sweet pea currants. And then those are the white currants right here. But I'm starting to see a lot of little tomatoes and I cannot wait to harvest these. And then look at these beautiful cherries. This is the purple bumblebee. Now, I did start a lot of different varieties of cherry tomatoes. So we have purple bumblebee here, the Sweet Million, as well as Mountain Magic. So these two are actually new for me this year. Then I have chocolate cherry, which is also new for me, and Chadwick. That's also new. White cherry I did grow last year, but I didn't get a lot, which is why I'm growing them again this year. And then sweet currant, which is one of my favorites, as well as white currant is also a favorite of mine because they taste so sweet. My hope is that when they do grow up this trellis, I can train it to go back down and up because, you know, cherry tomatoes or cherry tomato plants are so wild and they're just hard to keep clean. So that's why I figured putting them on this pea trellis would do really well because I'm hoping, like I said, I can train them to go up and down the trellis. And so far, this little section of the cantaloupe is doing really good. Everything's growing. Everything looks green. I haven't had to replant any starts in here so far. And my hope is that we'll have a lot of cantaloupe back here because these are 6 different bags of cantaloupe. I do want to quickly show this to you because now that it is raining and the ground is wet, you can see how all of this gets wet. And what happens is it goes all the way down. So my hope with these bags was to catch the water underneath so I wouldn't have to water as much. And then of course with the straw on top, that also helps to keep the soil moist and from drying out, which my hope is that it'll help for me having to water constantly throughout the summertime. Here's what I'm excited about though. Do you see this new trellis? So I am testing out this trellis that I found on Amazon. Now this could go further out, but it won't fit in the bag if I do that. So I'm trying this out for the first time. And because this was already filled and I had to stick it in the way that it was, I tried to push it down as far as I could. And then what I did to reinforce it was I put a garden staple on each end. So one here, here, and on the other end of both sides, and we'll just see how it goes. I mean, the other folding trellises have been amazing. I really like those, so I wanted to venture out and try something different. But here are the rest of the pumpkins. So we have 4 bags of different varieties of pumpkins, and then the rest of these bags are all watermelon and a couple of cantaloupes down there. Look at this beautiful fuchsia zinnia. Isn't that gorgeous, friends? It's so pretty. I love zinnias. They're so fun. I did want to show you this blue Hubbard squash. So it's in this grow bag right there, the green one, and it has climbed over to this trellis right here. So I'm gonna let it do its thing. We'll just see what happens. I may have to unattach it. I'm not really sure, but we'll see what happens. And then here is the black beauty squash, which I think there might be a tiny one on there. I'm not really sure. We'll have to see if that grows anything. And then the yellow squash back there where we harvested that zucchini last week. I don't see anything new, but we'll just have to wait and be patient. And then the bags that are by my stairs are doing really good so far. They're growing. Nothing's dying on me. I will say though, and I shared last week, something chewed one of my watermelon plants down there, which was the longest one that I had. Now this one is, because I've already attached it to the trellis. So I'm hoping that putting the watermelon bags here is going to produce more watermelons than where I had it last year. And then here's the other trellis that I put a cantaloupe in. And you can see, look at how nice that looks though. So I'm hoping this works out because I think putting these trellises in grow bags are super helpful. And I've enjoyed having them in the other grow bags. So I like to test things out and try new things all the time. And then here's the grow bags I had all those Brussels sprouts in. And I shared at the end of the video last week how I made it into a meal with the zucchini and some other things that I've harvested. It was so delicious. And I think what I'm going to do from now on is grow Brussels sprouts in these bags. So I might end up putting them in here in the fall, or at the very least towards the end of winter going into springtime. But now what I have in here is what I love to put in here every year, and it's 3 Roma bush tomatoes with basil on the outside, except this year what I decided to do is a new basil. It's the Thai basil. Usually I put like a lemon basil or an Italian basil, but I'm trying out the Thai basil this year, and so far everything is looking really good. And I will say, just one bag with 3 plants produces so many Roma tomatoes. It's insane, which is why I always plant these in these grow bags right here by my stairs. Oh, and here's the kale that I was talking about. So I'm gonna go ahead and harvest a couple of pieces. And here's a quick peek at the tomato plant growing out of the ground. Look at how much it's grown. I have some other volunteers by the raised beds too. These are one of my favorite things to grow because I don't really have to do any work. As far as all of my tomato beds, there isn't anything to harvest. However, I did come out here and did a little bit of pruning and clipping on the bamboo sticks because I didn't get out here in time, and there was a whole bunch of tomato plants that were bent over, and actually one of them snapped off here, but thank goodness there was a second leader, so I'm safe. But I did come out here and clean them up, so I'm hoping probably within the next week or two, we'll be harvesting a couple of tomatoes. Something I do want to point out though, is that I try my hardest to keep this whole area down here completely leaf free because it is very humid here in Alabama. And so in order for my leaves not to get disease, I don't prune everything, I will say that. But in order for my leaves and my tomato plants to stay as healthy as possible, I try to keep things very pruned and have at least a foot from the top of the soil, or the straw in this case. I like to keep it leaf free as much as possible. And I also did it down here by all of my Martino Romas, as well as the San Marzanos on the other side. And so far, friends, everything's looking really good as far as attaching the tomato plants against the trellis here. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this grows throughout the summer. Can we just talk about this basil plant right here? So this is a Tulsi holy basil, and this was actually volunteer seed that was over here. If you remember that plant that was growing next to that Swiss chard at the end. Well, I didn't have the heart to throw it away, so I took it out and I put it in this corner. Look at how massively big it got. This is insanely big. I'm actually going to harvest a little bit right now. And there's that broccoli that we're going to harvest. The other broccolis are not ready, but we're going to harvest this one right now. And as far as the cucumber plants, everything is growing really good. I feel like for the most part, everything's germinated. I did catch a bug chomping on one of my baby seedlings, so I'm not sure if that one's going to make it. However, there's a lot here. So I think between both sides, we're going to have a lot of cucumbers to harvest over here. Here's that other tomato plant growing in the ground, by the way. I think they do so good growing in the ground. I love observing and learning from this. Every year, they always impress me. I did want to quickly show you the peppers. So there's not a ton to harvest yet. However, if you remember me talking about the purple beauty, I did want to harvest this one because, friends, look at how gorgeous this pepper is. I mean, absolutely stunning. So we're going to harvest this together. Look at how beautiful that is. But I did want to show you, look at all the peppers growing. So those haven't turned red yet, although I think I see a hint of pink on the Jimmy Nardellos over here. Some of my favorite peppers, because the Jimmy Nardellos is a really sweet pepper, and I just think the way they grow is so much fun. And then here's a Napoleon Sweet. I love these. This turns kind of like a reddish pinky kind of green, and those are very, very sweet. And look at these peppers. So, oh my goodness, friends, I'm so excited. I cannot wait to harvest these. We are going to harvest a lot this summer. I have a very good feeling. I also wanted to quickly show you some of the dahlias at the corners of the garden because I love to have flowers at all corners as much as possible. So here's a dahlia, and you'll see that there's some volunteer plants in here because last year I used Botanical Interest like flower mix, and I sprinkled them all throughout the pots, and these sunflowers and zinnias and all these beautiful flowers were growing in the pots. And you can see there are some zinnia volunteers right there, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that looks. And then I do have some lemon balm. I put lemon balm here as well as over on this side, and I did it on the other corner of the garden back there. And then this corner is looking absolutely beautiful. So I have the dahlias over here. Now I will say my one flower pot over at the other corner, the dahlia is taking forever to grow. So I'm hoping that will still grow. Otherwise I'll just, I don't know, I'll put something else in there. But I am very impressed with all the snapdragons. I did do a lot of snapdragons because I think they're so pretty, and they're a little bit easier to maintain. They're not as wild and crazy, which is why I put them at the edges of all of my pepper beds. So this pepper bed here, as well as that one, because last year I had the Cosmos and they were really difficult to maintain. They got really big. They were beautiful, but they got really big and they were just very difficult to keep up. I put bamboo sticks in there. It just became a hot mess. So we're doing a lot of snapdragons this year. And then I did want to show you the sunflower. So that right there is a volunteer, and there's another volunteer here. I have one here, and then there's one under that insect netting. Cannot wait to get the insect netting off, friends. But for right now, because I'm trying to get more broccoli and I don't want the squirrels or chipmunks to get them, I have to keep that on there for now. But I do plan to add more seed to some of these posts because I find that having the sunflowers in these beds with the support of the post has been very helpful, as opposed to me planting them in some other raised beds that I had over there. I was trying to support it with a bamboo stick and it was really difficult. And so my hope is to put some more sunflower seeds in those wood beds. I actually have two other varieties. I can't think of the names right now, but I have two more varieties that I want to add to the raised beds, and they look really pretty. They're like a purple chocolate brown color, and then Evening Beauty, and I want to say autumn beauty are some of my favorite sunflowers. So I will be adding some more to those beds, and I'm hoping at some point I can figure out how to post or put a post in the ground on the corners of my garden to put sunflowers, because I think they're so pretty in the garden and they attract so many pollinators. So hopefully I can do that maybe next summer, or maybe later towards the end of the summer. All right, well, before I'm looking at myself to make sure I'm still in focus, before it gets completely dark outside, because I have my string lights on and it's just been gray and rainy today, so that is not helping. I don't have that beautiful evening sun to show all of this. So let's go ahead now and see what we harvested today. All right, so I kind of have my camera phone light on to help with the focus, but first thing we have is the broccoli. Friends, I've been getting a really good amount of broccoli every week. I like harvesting these little broccolis. It's been really nice to have. So hopefully we'll have a couple of more before, well, actually summer's already here, but maybe we can get a couple of more. All right, I'm gonna put these together. Oh my gosh, this Tulsi Holy Basil smells so good. It is so refreshing smelling. It just reminds me of summer, but we did get ourselves some kale, which I'm going to make a little salad out of, because I did just do a green stalk garden tour and harvest, and I'm going to put them all together. And then we got ourselves some Tulsi Holy Basil, which is always a delight to get. And then friends, I mean, a pepper. I'm so excited. So I see a ton of peppers in the beds and they're very green, so it is really difficult to see, but I'm hoping that we're going to be harvesting, the most peppers I've ever harvested in prior years, because we really do enjoy peppers. I'm losing focus. We really do enjoy peppers. So I'm very excited about our little harvest today. Well, friends, I am so glad that you all stopped by. And before I lose focus, I do want you all to know how much I greatly appreciate every single one of you. And I always look forward to turning this camera on and sharing the garden. And I also want you to remember this, friends. I want you to be encouraged, stay encouraged, and I want you to always stay inspired. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye.